Hi there. What I'm doing today is I'm going to show you how to add a split into a gown that initially didn't come with one and you didn't have the intentions of putting one in, but your client decided to add one at the last moment. That's not a problem. So what I'll do here is cut out a little lining piece, and it's going to be in the shape of the letter A. It'll have a sharp middle point, and then at the top it's going to be a little bit more squared off. So once we add that piece in, what it's going to look like, it'll be flipped under a little bit and it'll be really nice and clean. After you stitch it, you're going to want to iron out your seams so that they're nice, flat, crisp. There's no bulging or anything like that. Everything wants to be nice, flat, and crisp. It also allows for a nicer finish, as well as when you're ironing, or when you're stitching afterwards. Once you do your top stitch, all the pieces will lay flatter for you and it'll make it a lot easier to go over them, especially once you get into that pivot where your split point is. Another point that I wanted to make that I didn't do before I actually added this is you can serge your lining piece or facing piece before you add it in. It will make it a lot easier. I didn't do it. I typically don't serge before I add, just in case, but I've already done my first fitting for this young lady, so everything's fine. She wanted to add a split, and that's fine. I'll go ahead and add the split and I'll serge everything once it's completed. So now that we've ironed, etc., you can see that it looks a lot smoother, flatter. What I'm going to do is go ahead and tuck in my lining or my facing pieces on each side, and I'm just going to pin it just so that it stays in place where I want it to once I'm running it through my machine. You don't have to pin. I don't always pin, but in this case I just want to make sure that I get it right the first time and I'm not having to do any seam rippings at all. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to run it through the machine, and you want to make sure that you're going to sew as close to the edge as possible. That way it still looks like a really nice finish and there's no huge 2-inch seam going to the left or to the right. It's really close to the edge and it looks really nice and neat once you finish. And make sure your lines are super straight and it's the same width around the entire split. Also, when you get to the top where you need to pivot for the V for the top of your split, just please make sure that you do that really nice and slow. No need to rush. That way it looks really nice. You always want to go up a couple centimeters. That way you can come back down and it's really nice and clean. So this is kind of what it looks like with the pin still in it, stitched. And before I press it, I always want to press it again so you can have a really nice clean finish. As you can see, before pressing it, it was a little wavy, but that's fine, not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and iron it. That way you'll get a really nice finish on it. So just give me a sec. Alright, so as you can see here, I went ahead and ironed it out just a little bit and it looks really nice and crisp. My lines are nice and neat and they're the same length.